All right, thank you for tuning in. This is the Lost Dogs Podcast. Man, it has been a minute. We got couple of things to talk about. I think a lot of things have happened since the last time I posted up a an episode. Shoot. And no, the thing is, I'm still here. I'm still logging in time. You know, I've been doing some stuff and in and out of all kinds of sort of well all kinds of sort of shenanigans that we need to get to, and I'll talk about some of them here. I mean, it's just a little catch up sort of thing. And let's take a look here. Well, no, we it's been, actually hasn't been too bad. It's been a couple months almost to the day. I just got back from a trip, and I really kind of want to do a public service announcement to a lot of you out there. If you have family members, especially if you go to a sort of, well, it wasn't really a vacation. It was more of a workcation. I don't know what you would call it now. So I had so it's a workation. We ended up going to visit family members, and my uncle was retiring, and they threw a big retirement party that was rolled into a couple other parties, which ended up being kind of fun. Really fun. There's no doubt about that. We thoroughly enjoyed hanging out with my uncle, family members, and all that jazz. I'm not going to downplay that. But I've spoken about this before, and I kind of need to bring this up again in case you guys have family members that, let's just say, aren't as good with their finances as you are. I have a couple of things that, funny enough, my brother and I ended up coming up with these sort of new rules here. And I'm going to use this kind of as a platform for me to just get this thing off my chest, because it really ended up kind of putting a drag into what otherwise would have been a really cool vacation. And again, it wasn't a vacation because I had a day job to go through. So it was like during the week I was still working, and I just had the weekends off. And, obviously during the week I was still able to enjoy a new city, go out after work, go do things, all kinds of stuff. But it's not like I could stay out late. I got to come back, wake up, do the day job, and go from there. So I'm lucky in this aspect that I'm able to travel and connect and do things away from an office and be able to enjoy other places. That's absolutely correct. I love it, and it's great. The problem, though, is family members take up a lot of your time. And this is one of the things that kind of put a little damper into what otherwise would have been pretty much a perfect vacation or workation, if we can make up a word. And this is the suggestions that I have for people as well. If you have family members that expect you to pay for every outing, you have to control that. And this is, there's a lot of different aspects of how you can deal with it. You can be rash about it. And what we weren't going to do is go, hey, well, let me lay it out for you. Let me lay out what happened. The cousins go, hey, I want to invite you out to dinner. And it ends up being like, but when we get there, nobody makes a move for the check. It's expected that you pay, that I pay, or, somebody, they invite you to dinner, but they expect you to pay. If you should have already some sense of your family members when they do that. And my brother and I kind of already did. So that wasn't, put it this way, we were expecting to pay for the dinners a lot of the time, or the big dinners, right? But it does get kind of old when they go, "Hey man, I'm gonna invite you out for a cup of coffee. Let's go." And then nobody makes a move for the check, and I'm like, "Dude, you can't even buy me a cup of coffee." And the other thing that really bothers me is that my cousins, and they're grown men, I invited them out to eat lunch, to eat tacos, to go out and have a beer, but not once did they ever invite me out for anything. Not once did they ever invite me for a cup of coffee. Not once did they bring me a beer. Not once did they do anything. That was very disappointing, to say the least. I don't know if they think that just giving me rides to places was a trade-off, but I paid for the gas, so I don't know what the problem is. And I've been sending, on top of everything, I've been sending money to them monthly. And so I don't know what they do with the money. To me, the money is for my aunt, so that she can have and it's not like I'm sending millions. It's just so that she can have something, a lunch on me, or a cup of coffee, or maybe go out and buy her favorite snacks or whatever. So it's not that big a deal, but I do send, it's not nothing. I do send a fairly decent amount of cash for somebody to be able to go out and have dinner on me twice a month. Let's just put it that way. So there's that, But what happens is, again, it gets to the point where I think I could do it once, twice, but it ended up being like almost a week full of dinners and coffees that nobody made a move to pay. And there's other incidents too where it was just disappointing to see the family members taking advantage of us. And that's really what it was. And again, it didn't bother us a whole lot, but it got to the point where it got tired. We just, family fatigue is a real thing. And I was pretty much over it after a week. I was down there for 2 weeks. So we kind of came up with some suggestions for people. The other point I want to bring up as far as the suggestions, well, let me give you the suggestions and then why we did this. One of the things that we go out now, if they invite us to dinner, and this is what I did the last night, much to a little bit of drama that played out. Let me tell you about the last dinner that I had and what I ended up doing. So they go, "Hey, let me invite you out for a cup of coffee." And I go, okay. I picked the restaurant because I want to go. It's my last night there, and I want to go to one of my favorite restaurants in the city. And it's not expensive. It's just a relatively middle of the road restaurant. They just happen to serve a great cup of coffee. So I'm like, I'm going to be there at this time. Oh, and that's the other thing. They are very disrespectful with time, and it's not like, people are known to be late. These people are really, really late, and it gets, again, very frustrating to where they show up at one point an hour and a half late, and I'm like, man, I can't be here all fucking night doing this. The restaurant was going to close, put it that way. So I go, I want to go to this restaurant. If you guys want to be there at 7, great. If not, well, then I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, no, we're going to go because I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. And I'm like, all right. So what ends up happening is I think that everyone still thinks that I'm going to buy the dinner, and I'm not. But I'm going to have dinner, and I'm going to eat. And one of my other cousins, actually my other cousins and my uncle too, they ended up ordering entrees and food along with their coffee. And my other cousin ordered 2 entrees and 2 coffees and a dessert. So the coffees aren't free refills because they're specialty coffees. So they're not free. So it's a coffee and a drink, I'm sorry, he got. So now, normally I don't care and I don't take tabs on this, but you got to understand that this has already been happening for a while. And I'm just looking at people, quote unquote, enjoy themselves. And I'm like, it's my last night here. This is it. So now I'm expecting them to pay the bill, right? So I ordered my entree and 2 basically specialty coffees, right? So what I did when the bill comes, I just pulled out cash for my entree and I put it on the tray. And the tray sat there. And it became very apparent that I was not going to pull out my card and I was not about to pay for this dinner, nor was I about to do anything. Now, you got to understand that, including myself, there are 4 grown men here. Now, I'm not arguing about men should pay, men should do this, that, and the other. I'm just letting you know that there's 4 grown men with jobs that refuse to at least pitch in. So now what happens is that my other cousin, she makes a big deal out about pulling her credit card. And instead of just pulling her credit card and setting it on the tray and waiting for the machine to come and just paying with a card, she has to make a big deal and a big explanation. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to pull out my card. Oh, wait, hold on. I got to turn it on because, I hardly ever use it. I just use it every once in a while. And she just starts giving me this whole spiel about using a credit card. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, basically. But again, I'm not making a move for this check, So after a while, I'm like, if the check is a certain amount because your husband and your cousin tallied up some shit. I not only did I just have my entree, I paid you for it. So all you're paying for me is my 2 coffees, which you said you were going to buy me, So now that happened, and that's how I ended up controlling that situation again, because it was getting out of control. It really was, to the point where I'm like, man, I'm not into this, and this is that. Am I the asshole for this, that, and the other? And in this case, if I'm the asshole, so be it. I'm the asshole. Whatever. So now my brother and I came up with some rules. And here's the thing. Because again, they have the habit of going, hey, let's go out to dinner, or I'll invite you to dinner for the pretext was your birthday dinner, you're welcome to our hometown dinner, this, that, and the other. And they end up picking the restaurant. And the restaurant is not exactly expensive, but not exactly cheap. It's a mid-range, mid to high sort of restaurant. It's good food and great service, but it's not cheap. It's not McDonald's. Let's just say it's closer to Red Lobster or, a Cheesecake Factory sort of restaurant, to where you can see how entrees upon entrees with 10 people are going to pile up, So they have a habit of picking those restaurants, assuming that, my brother and I are going to pay for these dinners. So my brother and I came up with things like, hey, no, like if they go, hey, let's go to a restaurant here, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, if we're expected to pay, let's dumb down the restaurant and let's more or less dumb down the atmosphere and what we're expected to pay. And at one point, maybe even dumbing down the amount of people that show up. And cut our losses with, like, if the check comes for $100, we're going to go ahead and chip in whatever it is. We'll chip in 50 to 60, 70 bucks, and you guys pitch in the rest, or at least put in for the tip. The part of the reasons is as well, like, if you can imagine, obviously, if you, the type of people that are unaware of what it is they're doing, or if they are aware of how they are treating their out-of-town cousins. Like, I would never do that. If my cousins came here and we wanted to go to dinner, I'm buying them dinner. You know, I'm with anybody, any friend. If any friend came by and they go, "Hey, man, I'm going to take you to this restaurant," I'm buying. And I've done that a million times. And it's not that I'm, again, taking tabs or doing this. It's just I'm a grown man. I'm not going to have people just buying me dinner left and right all the time. And also, I'm not going to look like a fucking chump looking there just like with my arms crossed looking at the check. That's crazy. So one of the things that my relatives do is they really don't know how to act at a restaurant. They're cantankerous, and they're really loud, and they're very rude. And not in the sense that they're bad to the staff, even though that there have been some instances where they've been rude at the waiter for a really dumb reason. But they are rude in the sense that they're really loud and they don't have an inside voice, and they curse a lot, and everything is just out of hand. And especially if we start to drink a little bit, if there's wine involved or if there's beer involved, the volume gets a little louder. Now, I don't mind it at all at a patio, at a party, at home. That's exactly what I want from them. But we need to have some kind of restraint when we're out in public. And they're the type of people that are like, fuck them, man. If they don't care about and I'm like, this is a public spot, man. People came here to pay. They didn't come here to listen to you be a fucking dick. And this is one of the conversations that I want to avoid from now on. So if we go to these restaurants, it's going to be very difficult for me to go, well, I am just make sure everybody comes to pay for what it is, and that's pay for their own plate. And if they don't show up, the better. Like, I have it in my head to where, like, hey, man, if you can't pay for your dinner, please don't show up, because I don't have enough money to pay for everybody. And I don't want to be a dick, because I am not, I'm not trying to say that, you guys are expecting me to pay, but I only have enough for me. So, just make sure that everybody comes ready to pay. And that's, again, not a good conversation to have. So you have to control it in by situation. So our plan is to go, okay, you know what? That's a great idea. Like if they go, hey, let's go to this restaurant and have some, let's just say they go to some Brazilian meat house restaurant. I'm going to go, hey, man, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's save it for later. I've said in this restaurant right here, I would very much rather go here and try this out right here. And then we'll save that restaurant for a different time. And if that doesn't come across, to them, like, well, I don't like that restaurant, I don't like that food. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'll be there. And then we can meet up somewhere else for drinks or something like that. And then that way I end up minimizing the entitlement to say, I don't care too much to like, oh, I'm going to minimize how much I pay. And that's not really what I'm interested in. I'm interested in minimizing the entitlement and the amount of advantage that they're taking of me, if you will. And that was the only sour part. I mean, the thing is, for the big party, there were situations, and I don't want to get too much into it because it is frustrating to where I was, since the beginning of the year, every paycheck I was sending down a little bit to help with the party, with the food, with the beer, with the drinks, with the decorations, with the whatever. And I ended up sending down a nice little chunk of change, okay? My brother also contributed a lot to the festivities, and it wasn't enough for them. They kept asking for a little more, this, that, and the other. You're going to be in charge of this, you're going to be in charge of that when we get there. And it ends up, the way my uncle words it is that he's trying to be funny with it, but at the same time not. And it really gets to the point where you start to say, hey man, I only got so much for this. So if it doesn't cut it, that's it, sort of thing. Like all of a sudden I'm in charge of buying the ice for the kegs. And I'm like, man, I sent way enough money for this to happen. And then there was another incident too that, my brother took it well, but it ended up pissing me off a little more of how it happened. And again, the problem is that people think you have a lot of money. And even if that was the case, there's got to be a stop to how much you ask. We don't have a lot of money. It isn't, I work for my cash. I just happen to save up for the trip. I saved up for what I'm doing, and I kept sending chunk of change every single week, every single payday to them so that I can help with the party and so there wouldn't be nothing. So, that is something that kind of sticks with me. And again, there's certain suggestions, again, that the next time I go, it's going to minimize and be better. And there just has to be a line drawn to how much you can take from your relatives or from people that are like that. And the problem is, I shouldn't have to do that, right? We shouldn't have to do that. I was talking with my friend, and I have friends that I've known for 40 years, all right? And we've never done that to each other in any way. It's always sort of things, even with my brother and some of his friends, and some of the friends that I've had from way back. We've never been to the point where like, oh, you got this, right? Oh, you got this. You got me, this, that, and the other, and never offered to reciprocate the meal, the drink, the whatever, and never, road trips, you pitch in, this, that, and the other. And it just ends up being such a huge contrast between blood relatives and people that you've known that aren't your relatives. They just happen to be like your best friends forever and ever. And it's weird. It's weird. And it's just like, it's going to get dangerously close to having a conversation with them. Like, and just one last situation that I wanted to bring up because it just kind of like get it off my chest sort of thing. So my uncle, there's a center of town, right? And then my uncle lives, let's just say, in the suburbs. So I wanted to hitch a ride with my cousins to go to the suburbs. But they kept making a big deal about basically not giving me a ride. And then they go, you know what, just go ahead and go on yourself. And the thing is, like, it costs money. It's an Uber ride, right? So instead of helping me save money and hitching a ride with them, they somehow made some sort of weird deal to where I make some sort of excuse to where, man, we can't give you a ride. I'm sorry. Can you just go on ahead? And that ended up kind of bringing it to like a head to where, like, man, this sucks. I shouldn't have to deal with that. After all the beers I've bought, after all the dinners I've bought, after some of the food that I've bought, all of a sudden, I can't even get a ride over there. And it's just, again, really fucking frustrating. But that's, whatever. That's them. It's over. I had a great time despite that. And there are no ways to control what it is that, you have a better idea. And it's not like it's the first time I had visited them. I had visited them. It wasn't my first visit with them. I've been going steadily for like the last 4 or 5 years to going down there and having a good time. And this time, it got to the point where the difference this time around was that there were multiple dinners multiple outings to where multiple times we were expected to handle the bill, as opposed to before where there was we just didn't go out as often before to restaurants. It wasn't that sort of deal back then. But this time around, it just kind of went overboard with their quote unquote invitations. There's got to be a word for that, right? Like some sort of empty invitation or expected invitation. I don't know. We'll come up with a phrase for it. But basically, the you fly, you buy sort of thing. It's funny. Yeah, and this time it was just a little bit too much. Everything, in a perfect world, what should have happened from all the money that we sent down beforehand for the party, we shouldn't have had to have paid for anything. There should have been enough gratitude to where, like, hey, man, thank you so much for this, that, and the other. Here's this, that. The only one that really went out of the way to thank us is actually, funny enough, my uncle. He had, when I went down there, it was my birthday, so he had a birthday dinner for me. Hot dogs wrapped in bacon and brioche bread and all the fixings and some great potato wedges. And it was delicious. It was delicious. And then the going away dinner was cheeseburgers, which were also delicious in brioche bread. So he did go out of the way to treat us. But that's that. And he did a couple other favors too that were that he was grateful for what we ended up doing for him. No, that's not. I mean, those are just suggestions that I have. If you happen to have family, because I know out there that everyone's got that kind of family. Like, hey, cousin, can you, drop me a couple bucks? This, then, the other to payday sort of thing. That's the other thing, unfortunately, is that my cousins do have a bad habit, couple of them, of asking me for loans. And the problem is like they can't ask for a 20 or a 50. They're asking for thousands of dollars. And I'm like, nah, bro. There's no way I'm ever going to loan you anything more than $20. They're asking for $500, $300. I'm like, nah, bro. That can't happen. There's no fucking way that I'm ever going to loan anybody down there more than... There's not really a single cousin that I would ever loan more than $20. And it's not a loan. It's essentially that money's gone. I'm never going to see $20 again. I'm never going to see $50 again. So if they can't pay that amount back, they can't pay any money back. So yeah, that's what that is. So learning experience. I'm fucking 50. What year is this? 51. And I'm just learning this. And the thing is too, again, am I the asshole sort of thing? And I feel like an asshole for thinking that. But here's at the end of the day, I have a clear conscience. I don't worry about what I did, what I didn't do. Did I treat him bad? This, that, and the other. And I think that the next time that it comes around, I'm not going to have a problem saying no, in a sense of like, hey, we should go to this restaurant to go eat. I'm like, no, let's just go over here. Or I was thinking of doing that with my, if I ever go down there with a partner or with a friend or something like that, I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to do that later on. The other bullet that we dodged is... Well, let me talk about the good stuff. So we ended up going to where my mom was born, her hometown. My brother hadn't seen it, and we ended up walking around and really having a good time, because that's just outside of the town. There's a little resort that overlooks this gorgeous canyon, and we had a great time. That's where the party ended up being. Which ended up being a good thing because, again, my brother could see the hometown. Now, one of the things that they wanted to do, and this is how I kind of got me going on controlling this thing, is that They basically wanted to rent a limousine and they started having this weird conversation in front of me. And this was at my quote unquote birthday dinner with the hot dogs. They started talking about this limousine and how much it was going to cost to go up to the town, because the town is a little farther away. It's like up in the mountains, let's just say. And it is about it's a curvy road. It's about an hour and 20 minutes away in a normal car, as opposed to in a bus, which makes it 2 hours, right? So they started talking about essentially taking this limousine van and going up there and how much it was going to cost. And it was going to be a little too pricey because there's not, the van, it fits 14 people, but only 8 of us were going to go according to them. And I started thinking that the people in the room, it included me. And I'm like, man, I am not doing that. And I'm like, you know what, guys? And I said this, I said, it's $5 to take the bus up there. It really is. Actually, less. It's less than $5 to take the bus up there, and it's $20 to take to split what they call a collective taxi. The taxis to go up to the town essentially wait in a certain area in the city, and what they do is they wait until they get 4 people into their taxi, and then they go just so that they could collect a fair rate to go up there, and that's totally fair. And I was talking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure. And like, so when are we going to go? What time are we going to go? And I'm like, hey guys, this isn't my conversation. I'm going up the day before. And mind you, I just came up with that idea on the spot because, one, I was not going to be involved in whatever transportation thing that they were thinking that they were going to have. And I told my brother, I said, hey man, I'm going up the night before. If you want to cruise with me, go ahead. I already got the taxi driver, and I already got, and I booked the hotel room. It's got 2 beds in it. If you want to go with me and split it, fine. Otherwise, it doesn't matter to me. I'm leaving. And my brother says, man, I'm kind of losing motivation. I think I was just going to go with them, this and the other. I'm like, hey man, that's up to you. But I'm letting you know that this is better. And we're going to be able to wake up, walk around the town, do a little sightseeing, and that's exactly what we did. And that was it ended up being a great plan. We had a great time walking around, just us two, me taking pictures, me doing this, that, and the other, and having a great breakfast. Oh my God. They have this special type of enchilada that they specialize down there. Oh my God. It's just amazing. It's unlike anything that's in the northern part of Mexico or in the United States. It doesn't exist. It's just how they cook it down there. It's completely different. There's nothing even close, remotely close to that taste up in the United States or in the northern part of Mexico. So yeah, that's what they did, and that's what we did. And lo and behold, come to find out, everybody took their own car to the resort. The limousine bus or the limousine van, whatever, was never rented out. I'm gonna just leave it right there, So that's again, just leave it right there. But yeah, my brother hadn't seen where my mom was born and raised, and it is a beautiful little town. It doesn't have much in the way of tourism. Actually, it has zero in the way of tourism. If you love churches, you might go there for a church. If you love just walking around a small little town, you might be able to do that. There might be some tourism stuff that you can go do, like if you want to go see, I think you can go see some caves, or you can go down to the town that's on the bottom. There's this overlook that looks over the canyon that's amazing, and down at the bottom of the canyon there's another little town, and they make certain guitars there. So that's a place to go visit, and it's definitely a place that I want to go visit. I mean, the town is so small, clean, and with friendly people that I'm thinking I might end up living there one day, which it'd be ironic. These are the things that you learn out there, and you never stop learning about, sometimes you wonder what happens to people as they grow up. And then you wonder how much they've changed and how much they really haven't. Some of my cousins are essentially the same kind of person that they were when they were kids, and now they're just doing stupid shit as adults, which I find kind of funny. And there's some gossip that I can't tell you. I wish I could, but there's too many people that listen to this that are going to, as much of a secret podcast as it is, there's some people that listen to it that I just can't give the gossip out. But there is some crazy gossip that I learned that essentially financially they're in a situation that they are because of this gossip. And to me, it's like, you're an old person. What are you doing with your life? How could you have made those kinds of decisions over something as silly as the stuff that you got into? It's funny. It's the shit that you would do in your 20s and maybe even in your late teens. But you're doing them as a grown person. It's absolutely wild, man. And I don't understand it. And I get to the point where, like, I understand how because I go down there, right? And I visit my relatives on occasion, obviously. I don't live with them. But I have this thing in my head of us, how we were when we were kids, of when we first visited the town, of when I first got to know my cousins. It was a beautiful thing. I was 10, 11 years old. We were down there, and I met all my cousins. We had a great time, and we were kids. And we did, and there's certain things that happen to where, like, man, I hope that these relationships last forever. I mean, you don't say that at the time as a kid. That's the intent, that, man, I wish I could come back. And then 2 years later, we went back, and it was like we picked up right where we left off. And it was amazing. And then I went back 4 years after that. And in some cases, a lot of things had changed, unfortunately. One of my cousins ended up passing away. Another cousin ended up falling off. But for the most part, the other cousins there was still a thread of what a childhood was when I was there 6 years before. And then I hadn't been down there, and then the next time I went up there was 8 years after that, and then it was just completely different. And it was a completely different town. The people were sadder, which ended up, kind of coinciding with what was happening in my life at that time as well. And it was all of a sudden, people grew up and got sad, and there was a big gap of, in my head, I am still kind of, and I say this with, grain of salt. I'm still kind of, in my head, I still remember what it's like to be a child. And I just wanted to relive these moments again. And everybody's just bitter and, nah, forget it. Never mind. And it was just, and it's frustrating. But there's still like a little tinge of the kind of person that they were, to where it's almost like they took all the good parts and burned them, and the bad parts that they had as a kid are still just ended up exploding a bit. So that's frustrating. And then, that was the last time I was down there. Let's just say that was 2004. And then the next time I was up there again was 2024, 2023, 2024, something like that. So it was 10, 20 years later. And yeah, so everybody was funny enough, everyone was in a better mood when we went back. But it's just funny how so many things happen in 20 years, and it sounds like a very obvious statement, but it's crazy. But the biggest changes, like I was thinking about time the other day, to where there was a big difference between 1975 and 1995. In those 20 years, it seems like the world changed a hell of a lot more than 2004 to 2026. Those chunk years, to me, are very different in how much the world has changed. There is still, from 75, if you just start looking at the way movies were made, just a sort of like a measuring stick, if you will. The movies that were made in the mid to early 70s are completely different than the movies that ended up being made in 1995, As a matter of fact, there's a lot of, certain cinema that we don't, see or we don't remember from the 70s. Obviously the big 70 one that pops out is The Godfather, and the big 90 movie that pops out to me is Pulp Fiction. There is still a little, there's a big difference there with the movies. But I don't see a big difference in movies from, 20 years ago. It seems weird. It seems weird that 2015 was 10 years ago to me, as far as getting old and things like that. But it's still 20 years, and 20 years, there's a lot of things that happen in 20 years. I think that I don't know, it's just society, I think, is weird. Technology-wise, of course, the cell phones that we had, we went from 0 cell phones in the early 90s to all the cell phones in 10 years, I was the last of my friends to have an actual cell phone. And I was holding out, to be honest with you. And the only reason that I ended up getting a cell phone is because my dad made me get one because I was working for him in the construction business. And in those days, there were Nextels. And instead of calling the number, you got to remember, at those times, the cell phone service was still kind of lame. But if you chirped in, you can use the Nextel as a walkie-talkie, and it was amazing. It was really, really cool. To the point where, like in the early 2000s, early 2010s, I remember they had an app called Vox, and you can use that as basically a walkie-talkie. Now, for me, now you can use your regular messenger, or I use WhatsApp a lot. That's my preferred app to communicate with people. And yeah, the voice message is a thing. But anyway, it was like I got an Nextel by the time I was 22, 23. But yeah, man, it's just weird customs, that have. And, you want to chalk it up as far as going back to my relatives and people that have different customs and different ideas. You don't want to chalk it up to like, well, they just live differently. They just do this and that. Again, am I the asshole? Gratitude is never a custom. It's never a regional thing. Even the word thank you. That's the other thing that really frustrated me, is that the people that should have thanked me for something never did. And again, my uncle is the only one that was grateful, and that he's the one that showed express gratitude in every form. But other than that, again, I'm just letting this out because, of course, you can imagine how frustrating it was for me in real time, to a certain extent. The other thing, you got to watch out for, and I've kind of spoken about this before, is because of these invites. And this is the other thing that, it's not all going to be downers, man. Just give me a second. Just to, and if you got comments, questions, concerns, or even more suggestions other than not going and telling them to fuck off, I'm all ears. But the other thing is, they want to take up a lot of your time because obviously they know you're paying for stuff. Again, a lot of these dinners, again, it was more frequent this time than all the other times for some reason. And I didn't get a whole lot of time to myself and to, again, because it was not a real vacation, it was a workcation. So I didn't get a lot of time for myself to be able to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. And it got to the point where there's this town called Coatepec. Coatepec is a beautiful old town that's still preserved a lot of its old school vibe, but it's starting to get a little too touristy and almost too industrial. You know, you might be better off going down the road a little bit to Chico and even Teocelo, just in case, you know, if you need a tour guide. But Coatepec is a capital of coffee. They sell coffee in Veracruz, and it's delicious. And when we go to Coatepec, my thing is to buy a lot of coffee. And I have a tip for you in a second, too. So I buy a lot of coffee, bring it home, and drink it. I'm talking kilos of coffee. All right. And it's also a good place to eat. There's a lot of good restaurants there, and obviously have a good time. The thing, you know, that I had told also my brother is that everyone's like, hey, when are you guys going to go to Coatepec? Let us know so that we can go with you. And, you know, hell, we might be able to give you a ride or this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, now you guys just know what I just, you know, said about the rides and stuff. So I told my brother, hey, man, we need to go to Coatepec on our own. And my brother's like, you know what, actually, his timeline worked as well to where he couldn't wait for them to go. So we need to do it now because I got to head back. He had to come back home. And I'm like, absolutely. And I told him, you know, Coatepec is a nice place to hang out for a good weekend and do a lot of the things there. You can go to coffee plantations. You can there's a bunch of museums that are good to go there. And just overall, you know, if you love coffee, you need, it's a must go. You have to go. And there's also waterfalls, hiking. Chico has a lot of beautiful waterfalls and hiking, and there's camping as well. I don't know about camping, and you know, I love camping in certain aspects, but the problem is that down there you're starting to look at a lot of bugs. I mean, it's the tropics. It's up in the mountains, but it's still within the tropics, so it's tropical weather. I'm just letting you know. Probably during the winter, you can go up into the old ranches, and it's looked like I kid with my cousins. I said, this is where Santa Claus lives, and it's beautiful up there. Anyway. We're like, well, I'm not going to wait for them, and I definitely don't want to take them, so we are going to go. And so we went, and just my brother and I, again, walk around Coatepec, ended up buying a bunch of coffee, and had a great time. And again, it was another executive decision to where, like, we can't be waiting on them, man. You know, we just can't. So do that. And you know, by the way, the other bad habit my cousins have is asking, and don't do this. Don't ever fucking do this, all right? Don't ask people how much shit is. It's like, oh, man, I just took a taxi from here to there. How much was it? How much, you know, oh, man, I'm staying at this hotel. How much is it? I went and ate here. How much did you pay? And it's like fucking irritating to where they're asking you how much did you pay for shit. And it's because it's never good. It's always like, oh, man, that's too expensive. Or, oh, man, I could have got that cheaper for you. And it's just like, you know what? Don't fucking worry about it. It's all fucking, and, you know, I will be the asshole the next time somebody else asks me that, because it's like, you know, my answer is going to be, are you going to pay for it? Like, how much was it? Why do you want to know? So that are you going to refund my money? Are you going to pay for it? And they're asking, no, I just want to know. And I'm like, no, man, you can look it up if you want to know. I'm not going to tell you how much I pay for it, you know, because it never goes well. Oh, man, that's expensive. Oh, man, blah, 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 blah. Because in the end, it's a sneaky back door for them to ask you for more money. It's like, oh, man, he just paid X amount for this. He must have money, so I'm going to ask him for this. And then if he doesn't give it to me, then I'm like, oh, whoa, you got money for fancy things, but you can't help out your cousin. And yeah, and unfortunately, the answer is, yeah, I work for my shit. It is nice. If you worked harder for your stuff, you'd be able to do that. And that's the thing. As you can well imagine, they just don't work as hard as they should. So yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Anyway, let me tell you about what I found out, that what I'm going to do from now on. I have come up with this genius idea. And it's really not that genius. I'm sure a lot of people had figured this out before. But, so there's carry-on. When you buy the plane ticket, there's carry-on, and then there's check-in baggages, right? So to go to the flight from Tijuana to Puebla, it's actually relatively cheap if you buy it with anticipation or beforehand, like a month or two before. It's only like $60 to $70 if you don't have a carry-on or checked baggage. If you want to do that, you can do a little more. But what happens is, with my problem, is that I always carry my gear with me. So I have extra baggage a lot of people don't have to deal with. A lot of people can just deal with a carry-on and have clothes for a week. That carry-on for me is my photography gear. So I have to check in a bag X amount with extra photography gear just in case I have like a tripod and stuff, and then then my clothes for a week or two. So this is, extra money for me. So, and then if I ended up buying stuff, which I did, which is the coffee and all this jazz, then it ends up being, I end up paying overweight for the check-in, and it just ends up being a very expensive doing it that way. So I figured out that it is a fraction of the cost to ship it to myself. So I not only shipped my coffee to myself, I ended up buying 7 kilos of coffee. No, 5 kilos of coffee. So I shipped those to myself. And then when I was at it, I was like, you know what? I might as well ship some of my clothes too. And to ship 7 kilos of clothes was nothing. Man, was nothing. So I'm like, dude, this is the way I got to do it from now on, because now I can buy a ticket for $60 and have my clothes waiting for me when I get off the airplane. And I'm like, I don't know why I never thought about this before. So this is, I suggest that if you have somewhere to go with family, and I bet that I asked the place that I shipped it out from if I can ship it to their address just in case. They're like, absolutely, no problem. It'll be here waiting. We'll be in constant communication, and you use our services, and we'll be right here for you. And I'm like, absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. Let's do that. It's kind of like sending it from one UPS place to another UPS place, but at a fraction of the cost. So, you know what? Even in the States, if I have my bag, it'd probably be cheaper. I don't know, actually. UPS price is very inexpensive to ship in Mexico. Now, you got to make sure that you wrap your stuff right, because, it's a thing. So, about 7 kilos of clothes. I could have added 10 kilos of clothes and wrapped it in the box, and they wrap it in cellophane for you too, just in case. So, I'm going to do a vacuum seal and then put it in that box and then have at it. And ship it to myself, or ship it down there to either the hotel, the shipping place, or my relatives, and go, hey, here, I'm going to ship my clothes down there, and that's that. And it ends up being a fraction of the cost, man. And seeing if I do it that way, bro, it is it is such a money saver. Like, I'm already thinking, if I land in Puebla, I can just have it shipped to my godmother's house. Me and my godmother get along very well. She's basically my aunt. So another great visit with my aunt and her daughters, we basically look at it like cousins. And yeah, man, I highly suggest that you ship your clothes to yourself and your toiletries, or some of them. At a fraction of the cost. If you take anything away from me venting in this fucking podcast, take that away. That's the silver lining in this whole podcast. And I've told you before, and I've, to all three of you listening, and I've said this before in a podcast. A podcast doesn't have to have a point. It has to I have spoken many a podcast in this, and this is one of the reasons that I had this podcast. I need to just let it out, let loose, fucking let it rip. And whoever listens, and just be able to produce my own podcast, not having to worry about who's going to listen, am I monetizing the podcast, this, that, and the other. Again, it gets to the point where you create stuff and just put it out there, man. Who cares? And if somebody listens and gets something out of it, great. If not, this was for me. I feel better now, you know? I let it out. I have the universe as my therapist. Chopping things out, even came up with things now that I didn't think of before, and allow myself to just fucking trauma dump to the airwaves and have somebody listen. And whether they want to finish listening to the podcast, hey, they got the little nugget of shipping stuff to yourself. Again, that's the key, man, of traveling, I believe, is to, let's just say I want to go overseas. Let's just say I want to go to Paris, right? And I think about, you know what, because, dude, Paris is just, flying to Paris is one thing, but flying back with a carry-on is absolutely a nightmare. They have very strict carry-on rules there. So if I can just go with a lightweight backpack and just my gear, boom, I'm done. That's all I need. And not even check in a bag or nothing. But if you talk to the hotel and go, hey, man, I need to ship this to the hotel, this, that, and the other, that would be epic. Or ship it to the packaging place in Paris or something. Figure it out, man. I bet it's on Google. I bet it could happen. All right. That's it. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Next time, hopefully, it won't be such a downer. I'll have better things to talk about. And I will, actually. I will. I have a lot to talk about for my trip that isn't going to take long. My photography, that from not like a technical aspect, but just like a sort of like what it does for me as far as a hobby and a serious hobby. And what we need to do in order to be creative in even the most minimal amount of way. And I'll come up with that later as far as like the difference between living in Phoenix and living somewhere completely different from Phoenix. How that is an issue. Anyway, that's it. I'll let you guys go. Take it easy. Have a good one.